And he said, I didn't think I'd ever see my wife and daughter again. He said that's how fast it happened. And he was he was super scared because it was something that these things happen so fast. They happen in when you least expect it, and all of a sudden it's like it happens, it's over with. And if you're there to realize what just happened, you're pretty lucky. Here is the one harsh reality of working in a blue-collar skilled trade. When you work in a trade like the lineman trade, there are things that you have to learn to respect. You can't be scared, you just have to learn to respect it. And this one harsh reality is the fact that almost everything can kill you. What do I mean by this? Hi, my name is Austin. I'm a journeyman lineman. I've been working in the lineman trade since 2017. Prior to that, I did power line tree trimming clearance for 2 years. And then prior to that, I worked as a welding in a welder's shop. And then prior to that, in my high school years, I worked at a mechanic shop. So I have some years of experience in the blue collar world. Now, one thing that a lot of individuals kind of forget or they don't think about, they get blinded by the flashing lights and the dollar signs, that there's a lot of things that will kill you. And when I talk about things that'll kill you, I'm more so specifically talking about in the lineman trade. That's the trade I'm a part of. I'm a journeyman lineman. And I've come to realization the fact that there's a lot of things that can injure you, kill you, or you're a member on your crew or your brother, something like that. It's come to my realization that really I had an epiphany. In the skilled trades, there's a lot of things that can kill you. And this isn't just a lineman trade. These are many trades, especially like the bigger industrial trades where you're using big heavy pieces of equipment, rigging, if electricity is involved, if there's a potential of fire, arc flashes, and there's so many things that can like injure a person or ultimately really kill them. Now, this is the harsh reality, and I never really thought about this or even saw this until I got started in the lineman trade. And when I first got started, we were working on a transmission line, big lattice towers. And so we're using cranes, we're using big heavy pieces of equipment. We're driving in the middle of nowhere on very up and down rough terrain, and we're hiking and climbing towers, and it's a pretty rough going all day long. I mean, by the end of the day, you're beat. And the thing about the lineman trade is you have many things that can kill you. You have electricity, you have heavy equipment, you have working long hours, you have the working conditions, the outdoor element, you have traffic, you have equipment failure, you have different people that you work with. There's a lot of these different factors that individuals don't think about. Like they want to get into the lineman trade or one of these trades because you can make so much money and it looks so cool on social media. And don't get me wrong, it is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, a lot of these things that can kill you, that can hurt you, you don't realize until you actually encounter them firsthand, until you see it firsthand or something happens to you firsthand. And to me, it really came to realization when I first got in the apprenticeship and working on this Highline, on this transmission job. And we were in a crane basket and we were like 140 feet up in the air or something like that. We're relying on the guy on the ground to operate us as we're right next to this big steel structure to flash around in the air to get us in position where we need to go. So we're using radios, we're using hand signals to have him operate us. And all of a sudden the crane just failed. It just stopped working. And we were stuck. Like we were stuck up in the air. And what are we supposed to do now? Are we supposed to make some sort of emergency landing? We're just stuck up in the middle of nowhere up here. We can't get to the tower. What are we supposed to do? And then all of a sudden it started working again and it started just to boom down out of control. And the operator had no way of stopping it. It just started to boom down. And so literally my journeyman's like, dude, well, there's nothing we can do. It's out of our control. So we literally just sat up against the back of the basket. And then luckily, the crane, they were able to hit an emergency stop and the crane stopped. But ultimately, the equipment failure, I mean, if we were in a position where, we're working outside of the basket and our arm's right there or something and the boom all of a sudden just started to go down out of control, and our arm was right there. It could have been a pinch point, could have sneaking cut your arm off from the pinch. I mean, there's a lot of factors that could have happened, but that's just one instance that was like, well, that could have severed my arm, or like ultimately maybe, like the boom completely fails and like we tumble and it jars and we fall out of the basket, and luckily for wearing a harness, we're safe. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's so many things that can fail, especially equipment, or a guy's not having a good day and his mind isn't in the right spot and he does something dangerous and ultimately in return creates some sort of accident in which could result in injury or death. In a trade like the lineman trade where electricity, is such a big factor. I had this thing happen to me when I was in the apprenticeship, and I made second point of contact in the secondary, working on some energized secondary. I made a second point of contact and I ended up getting electrocuted. Shocked me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know what else to do, and I made this weird noise, and that little instance was like, wow, that could have killed me. Like if that was higher voltage, or if I was in, happened to be like in the wrong place, the wrong time, or whatever, like it could have been in a situation where that could have killed me. And it doesn't really hit you. It's a dose of reality that you don't realize until it happens to you. And like I said, individuals don't think about this kind of stuff until it actually happens to you. I didn't think so. I was confident. I had a little bit of an ego to me. I thought I was this, big bad apprentice lineman, and then it's like all of a sudden like a slap in the face, like, no, this is how it is. Like this stuff does not care about what you do, like electricity. I was told by a foreman that you don't be scared of electricity. You just have to learn to respect electricity, because electricity, it doesn't care about your feelings or what you're going through in life. It doesn't care about any of that stuff. Ultimately, you have to just respect it. It's there. You're working on it or around it. It'll kill you so fast. And people just don't realize that until it happens to them or they see it happen. I've seen, probably can count on one hand how many times, there's been an electrical failure or an incident happen, like a phase to phase where 1247 volts, 12,470 volts, and you see the big blue dragon, or a phase to ground situation where a fuse pops and there's an equipment failure and it makes a big bad bang. And then you just like, these things you see firsthand, like, holy crap, this stuff could kill you pretty fast. And you really have to be on your toes and always kind of have your head on a swivel to be looking out for these things. Sometimes it's not even work related as far as like the stuff we do at work. It's the traffic. You're working on the road. You're working around other people. There's cars flying by you. We had this incident where I was up on a tower and we were doing a freeway crossing, and the traffic had a rolling slowdown and they forgot to they missed an exit. And this Dodge Durango came cruising down the freeway at like 80 miles per hour. And there was the pilot car, the traffic control car, was just stopped in the middle of the freeway because no one should be on the freeway because there should be a rolling slowdown. And then all of a sudden we hear screeching, and I look, and all of a sudden I see this Dodge Durango just pile drive right into the back of this. And it's like a Acura something or another. I have a picture right here that you guys can see. And it hits it and it jumps, and the Dodge Durango rolls a couple times. And it's like, holy crap, what just happened? And yeah, there was a helicopter up there, and the lady supposedly, she survived. Both of them survived. The lady got distracted by the helicopter, and then before she knew it, she saw the car right in front of her. It was too late, and she just absolutely smeared the rear end of that car. So like, those sorts of things, completely out of our control. You think you're taking every safety protocol, but there's always that one instance, or there's always those one or two things that could cause an accident, which could result in death, which is worst case scenario. I had this thing happen also. These are just a few things when I was an apprentice on that same job, where it was like right at the end of the job. And this is where a lot of accidents happen, is towards the end of a job, where people kind of get complacent and they're like, oh yes, the job's almost done. And I was a second step apprentice. So I knew nothing. A lot of times I was just doing what I was told. There's things I did know, but for the most part, it was just like, hey, Austin, go do this. And okay. So anyways, we were pulling in the static line across the Columbia River. This is a big pull, a big wire pull. And me and the other journeyman, we're up on top of this tower. It's the 250-foot tower. We climbed up there and we had to set this traveler up there. So it was a breakaway and the wire could go down and they could pull it down on the ground. And I'll draw it out here so you have a better kind of understanding of what it looks like. So me and this journeyman, we're up on the tower and it's something like this. We're on this tower, right? And this is a big lattice tower. And we're up here. We got this polar down here. And this is probably, I'm gonna say 200 yards or so. Anyways, we're pulling wire from up here, this wire to this puller down here. So the wire is going like this and it's going this way. I don't know how long the pull was, but it was a long pull. And we're up here 250 feet up here. So me and the other journeyman are sitting up here chilling. And so the wire's pulling in, everything's going good. And all of a sudden it gets to right here and the rigging fails. And this static line comes winging back towards us. I don't know how fast, but you got to imagine this traveler starts wobbling like crazy and this thing comes flying back like 1,000 miles per hour. And they got to think this is like 1-inch steel cable. By the time it gets to us, it's shaking the whole entire structure, the whole entire steel lattice tower is like shaking. And we're only probably, I was like 15 feet away and the lineman was like 10 feet away, but it all happened so fast. And the lineman, as soon as that got done, he was like, man, dude, my life flashed before my eyes. And he said, I didn't think I'd ever see my wife and daughter again. He said, that's how fast it happened. And he was he was super scared because it was something that these things happen so fast. They happen in when you least expect it, and all of a sudden it's like it happens, it's over with. And if you're there to realize what just happened, you're pretty lucky. I mean, these are equipment failures, these are rigging failures, these are accidents because people aren't taking the right safety protocols. It could be a life-altering or even a life-ending situation. And a lot of people don't think about that when they get into a trade like the lineman trade. Like I said, they see the flashing lights, the dollar signs, and they said, oh, that'd be so cool to be a lineman, you know, I can go fly up in helicopters or go do this or that. And it's the greatest trade ever until something happens to you or you see something happen that you realize, wow, this stuff is no joke. This stuff can kill me pretty well, pretty quickly. So I'm not here to scare you. I'm more so here just to inform you. This stuff is real. Until it happens to you, you won't actually realize it. And honestly, these are just words too, but these words are the reality. So take these words and actually critically think about it. I'm not telling you not to, pursue a trade. I'm by any means not saying anything like that. What I am saying is you just have to learn to respect the dangers of a trade. There's so many of them, and that's why there's a lot of safety rules and safety procedures and protocols, because everything is written in blood. There's a reason why we do certain things or have to wear things or do this and that, XYZ, because someone did something and it caused death or serious injury. So every rule is written in blood, and that's something you have to realize when you're doing work at work, dangerous things out there, and that you just cannot comprehend until you see it firsthand. It happens to either you or somebody you're working with. So if there is one thing that I could try to inform you about and educate you about the dangers of getting into a skilled trade like the lineman trade, is almost everything can kill you inside the trade. You have to not be scared, but you just have to learn and respect these things like electricity. Electricity doesn't care how you feel, how you think, doesn't care about any of that stuff. What matters is you have to respect it, and you just have to learn to work with it properly. And so you can go home at the end of the day with all your digits, all your toes, to your wife, to your family, or to whoever or wherever as one piece. And that's the most important thing. Safety is obviously a massive part, but you just have to realize that most things can kill you.